Thank you for being here, first of all. And just as a brief introduction, we have very diverse panel. We go from an industry, so we have Airbus, Patrick. We go also to a government, so Mr. Mittal, thank you for being here. Again, we have Nokia, which is on our panel, there's Mikko. And we also have Spirent Communication, is more talking from a testing perspective. So we're going to have a really broad type of expertise, but also we will learn how we can work together, what do we need to do for support the success of 5G. So let's, as again, be free. So I will start with some conversation first, some introduction. Then we go a couple of questions, but if you want to ask something, we have a microphone, so I will come to you to see if there is any question that you want to ask. First of all, well, maybe let's start like this. So Patrick, if you wouldn't mind to introduce yourself, what Airbus does. Obviously, you are a big organization. If you can keep it very light and short, just to give a hint to the audience.
So thank you very much. So my name is Patrick Castagnino. I am working within the Airbus commercial entities. Just for the introduction, we have various entities within Airbus. That means commercial aircraft, satellites, secure communication, helicopters, and so on and so on and so on. So I will introduce quickly what we are doing today with 4G and 5G to come as well, and what we can do with the 5G communication within digital aviation mainly, and as well not only the communication bricks, but what we do behind as a vertical with introducing the service on top of the aircraft.
Thank you for that, for the brief introduction. So Jurrie, over to you. If you can briefly introduce yourself and the company, what you do.
Thank you. My name is Jurrie van der Breekel. I work for Spirent. We are a leading vendor in testing and assuring 5G networks and also very active in satellite communication testing. We've had to date about 3,000 engagements testing 5G functionality, and yeah, excited to share some of what we've learned in this panel here.
Thank you for that. Mikko, over to you. We know Nokia now, but if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello, Mikko Jarva. Born and raised in Finland, but living 20 years abroad from there, in US as well, nowadays based in Sunnyvale, California. I love 5G SA.
That's a good start.
Yeah, I kind of wait what the advance and 6G brings up, especially in terms of capabilities, and then my work is to make the networks programmable. So I really also was eager to hear the previous talk and the panel, and that's me.
Thank you, Mikko. And coming to you, to Mr. Mittal. So if you can briefly introduce yourself, but if you can also then tell us what's the secret of a success of 5G in India?
Thank you, Barbara. So my name is Neeraj Mittal. I'm an electrical engineer by training. I've also done my doctorate in economics. And I am currently the secretary for Government of India, looking after the Department of Telecommunications. Coming to your question about the success of India in rolling out its 5G network. So a few years ago, India did not have an indigenous stack of 2G or 3G. But the government started a very ambitious program of actually grounding these technologies into in the country and encouraging vendors to develop these technologies. Today, roughly, we have about 1.17 billion subscribers which are covered by 4G. And this rapid expansion happened because of concerted investments by private players, OEMs. And we have a very little slice left, which is really uncovered. So 90% are covered by 4G. Government has launched a very large program to cover the rest of the consumers also by 4G. Along with that, the 5G program was announced in March last year, and in the last 11 months, we have covered almost the entire country. We have installed a massive number of BTSs, leading to roughly about 1 BTS per minute into the country. The success has been actually driven by a lot of reforms, both in the procedural, ease of business, financial. So for example, the auctions were held in a very transparent manner. About $18 billion was raised. The spectrum was assigned within 24 hours of the auction. The spectrum usage charges were actually waived off. The upfront one-time payments were distributed over a period of time. So a lot of actual reforms happened which allowed various players to come in and participate in the auction to get the spectrum. And then, of course, technological rollouts also happened. So with all these, we are kind of at a cusp where not only the well-established companies, but domestic players are also pitching in to roll out 5G in the country.
Okay, no, that's quite interesting, and particularly, if I may, it's not just the traditional, private investment, but it's been a combination of public, private, and also a government really changing and reforming, facilitating the deployment where it was possible. So it's a combination of all these things. So it's great to hear, and I hope it's happening also in other countries. But we will get to that. So then maybe coming to you, Patrick. So from a perspective of Airbus as an industry, how do you see the 5G useful for you? Or where are the, let's say, the top maybe 3 or 5 cases where you are interested in 5G?
So just to come back on the first connectivity, we started the 4G a couple of years ago. So it's not new for Airbus. With, I would say, evolution to 5G, naturally, for multiple reasons. First, the main reason is we offload data and massive data from the aircraft. This is the main objective. With the global services, that means reduction of the maintenance and what we call globally predictive maintenance using data from the aircraft. So based on this service, we have additional, I will say, features used by the 4G, and the certification process is part of it. Now, Airbus is not, I will say, a traditional telco. We are fully industry. It's not a big issue. But anyway, we decided to go to MVNO model. Why? Because to control, I will say, the end-to-end integrity of the communication, and as well to control the security path from the aircraft to the grounds. This model is fully compliant with, I will say, security and certification process compliant with regulation. So that's why the 4G was put in place. Now 5G will come on top. What we have in mind, and so we started the 5G innovation and development, is to take all the advantages of the 5G, mainly with the global features you know perfectly than me. That means slicing, quality of service, and security. This is, I would say, the main words for us. Different use cases in top of massive data upload. Will be PAX entertainment upload. That means in every country in the world, provide the capacity of airlines to upload or download, because we are not in the same way, to download movies, entertainments, I would say, from the airport to the aircraft. So this is the second use case. And the next use case as well in the 5G to come, take advantage as well for the future 5G called 5G NTN and non-terrestrial network. So it will be part of the next development. So 5G will be a very important step for Airbus as well.
Thank you for the example. So then maybe I'm going to continue just on that and looking at enterprises. What is your experience, Mikko, for example? Can you give us some example where you see 5G or 5G Advanced also playing a role on the enterprises?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I now must explain what I love about 5G SA. It's the malleability of the network, so that you can specialize the network programmably on demand for different kind of purposes, use cases and application, and specifically the enterprise applications that have different demands that the current application that run so-called over the top of the network have. So yeah, we see actually growing demand movement and momentum towards a new way of using networks. And I think the use case Patrick brought up is one of those examples. Well, I mean, how do you offload data of the airplane when it lands and docks in, or how do you upload the latest movies into the entertainment system? It was interesting, just a couple of weeks back, we hosted some guests from Singapore, and we were guessing that, because it was just in the end of the month, that whether they're going to get the latest movies uploaded, but we concluded no, because it's not the home base of the aircraft, so you don't have all the kind of systems from which you can actually upload those latest movies into it. So they didn't get the latest movies on their way back, even the month changed when usually the latest movies are being uploaded. Anyway, if we have a programmable network, that means that we can on demand create that private network out of a public network as a slice through which you can safely in real time move the data that you need to move. So yeah, we are very excited about the new use cases which become possible and enabled when we get these advanced capabilities easily consumable into use.
So if I can maybe summarize, it's not just the speed or the capability itself, but it's just the predictability, and you can program against at least what you know, right? So as we also had before on the previous panel, if I know what is the delay or how much I need it or how much capacity everywhere, so I can actually work with that.
Oh, definitely, yes. I mean, there is many aspects into the network specialization. So there is the network specialization for very high capacity in terms of uplink, very low latency. But then, like Ross mentioned in the previous panel, jitter is important thing as well. There are enterprise applications which are very highly dependent on network jitter being very predictable and the latency being pretty predictable, something that the Wi-Fi networks kind of provide. Those are, for example, visual positioning of indoor drones, which need to send that video for inference into a server which is on the edge through the 5G network, so that then there can be accurate response back to the drone how it should be moving. So that's an example where you need to have a predictable, specialized network capability available.
Absolutely, and I guess anything to do with robotic, automated things, predictability is very important. Maybe coming to you, Jurrie. So, what is your experience on the 5G and the testing? What can you share with us? What you've done, what you've tested, and what are the results?
Yeah, so we see a lot of activity in the industry around bringing up multi-vendor 5G standalone cores. And one of the reasons that we say it's taking a little bit longer is because all the operators are working through the challenges of moving to a cloud-native virtual environment, and then B, at the same time, having multiple vendors in that core, and then third, coming up with all these new applications to monetize that. That's a lot of activity, and we've seen a lot of projects, and we're involved in a lot of projects. And we're also starting to see projects around the Open API Gateway, for example, testing out the enhanced location from the network, doing the dynamic slicing so that autonomous cars, don't become bricks when they drive by a music event in a city. So yeah, it's very exciting, and again, a lot of testing activity there.
Thank you for that. No, indeed, it's nice that you mentioned the example. That was one of the cases where I believe they didn't talk directly to MNO. They just choose a standard subscription, which is not meant for autonomous vehicle. Yeah. So maybe I'm coming back to you, Mr. Mittal. So how did the telco industry in India benefited from the 5G rollout? So can you tell a little bit more? Okay, you have now the experience, you roll out 5G, but how did the telco industry benefited from that, if they did?
So if you look at the telco industry, as I said in the introductory remarks, it was essentially, dominated by big players. And we've been able to actually really broad base that industry very significantly in the last 4 or 5 years. Along with a massive collaboration program, including R&D institutions, academic institutions, lot of startups. So for example, Government of India rolled out a program called the Digital Communication Innovation Square program at a cost of 1.5 billion rupees, which is actually giving and funding a lot of startups in the telecom services area. As we see, most of telecom is becoming software service driven, except for the radio part, as as it evolves. So there is India's strength has been in services sector for a very long time. So realizing that strength, government has actually started encouraging startups, and you see a lot of them here. We have a pavilion here, and we have a lot of our companies who are in the entire, in the RAN, in the core, and they are doing good work. India has its own 4G, 5G non-standalone stack ready. They're also going into the standalone mode. The Center for Development of Telematics, which is a Government of India entity, has been spearheading and coordinating this effort across all the industry players. So the ecosystem has really flourished and matured over the last 4 or 5 years. And we see that, it's the beginning of the S-curve. We hope to see a very steep rise as the time goes on. The next 2 to 3 years, as we saw in the Nokia presentation, when we see a lot of applications coming in on from the SA side, I think India will be ready.
Okay, no, thanks for that, and we hope so. It's good to see that change. One question, and then I come back to you. So if you want to start thinking, if you want to ask anything. So maybe for both of you, Mikko and Jurrie, we had a first session on Open Gateway and the API. And what is your view on the capabilities? Also, how can we make it a success?
Maybe I'll start
Maybe
with...
too big, but...
Yeah. So that's related then to the thing that I'm doing for my work, making network ecosystem programmable, easily consumable, and so forth. So that's a question I'm thinking about it a lot. We have to think about it. There are sort of 3 main kind of a class of players in that ecosystem. So there are, first of all, the networks. So to make Open Gateway successful, of course, we have to have the network to support openness in terms of programmability, open APIs, ability to specialize the network programmably on demand, slicing, and then also for networks to bring up capabilities which are not necessarily directly related to connectivity, but will be very useful for application developers going further. So that is things like high accurate positioning on the network side. There is demand from drones and others to have alternate positioning for GPS, or if you are indoors, there is no GPS positioning available. So that's fun. The networks need to bring up easily consumable, securely accessible open capabilities which are useful for programming. The second is then the conduit through which these networks actually open and bring those capabilities for the application ecosystem. And there, very key thing is the developer experience. We need to bring great developer experience. It goes beyond the APIs. It goes wrapping those APIs to further simplification and into development tools, bringing those into development tools, so that we really minimize the friction. And then what needs to also happen for everything that's the second thing. And then the third one is the ecosystem and the demand and the applications and the use cases. So obviously the demand needs to materialize as well for Open Gateway and similar initiatives to be successful. And of course we need to, as an industry, we need to supply for that demand for the application. We need to provide them the really great experience. We need to provide APIs that actually make a difference, network capabilities that make a difference. And I don't know, Jurrie, if I'm Am I missing something? Did I forget something? Maybe
No,
I
I think it's a complete list. I would add that, our recommendation generally is, start experimenting as soon as you can. Don't wait till you have 5G slicing to offer private networks through, an open API. If you can do the location-based service right now, start with that. Do a project, because there's plenty of demand out there for applications that want access to more basic data like that. And that's a great way to kind of grow into it and learn about the scale and performance issues that you have to overcome. So that's what I would add from our experience.
I just want to support that. That's a great additional comment. It's really important for us to move on, keep the momentum on, and do those small wins all the time. So yeah.
So maybe, Patrick, if I come to you, so obviously you're not from the industry, and how would you expect, so if they offer you these capabilities, would you use it? What would you need it for, maybe? Will you talk about before, offloading or uploading huge content? Would it help you to have a control, more granular control on the network that give you the capabilities to do the job you need to do?
Sorry, just to come back on that, depending on the aircraft position in the aircraft, the performance of the 4G today is not acceptable. Very simple things, because we use public infrastructure, covering mainly the passenger area of the airports. As you know, the aircraft is another side in the tarmac. So, depending on the airport, clearly, the performance is not at the right expectation. What we see in the 5G is to increase the performance using public, anyway, as mentioned, but as well combining, if we can, 5G private network. This is, I think, a real opportunity for us as an industry to use the performance of the airport and as well security of the airports. This is the main reasons. That's why this granular activities is how we can combine for the aircrafts the privates and the public network, including what I see and what I share as well is SIM cards, because we have only one SIM card aircraft. So the difficulties is clearly a combination of public, private, including in the same aircraft and device. This is what we see today. It will come very slowly because the infrastructure of airports are very huge, I will say. And we see in the next 5 years these possibilities for the aircraft point of view.
Okay, no, thank you very much for that. Good insight, actually. And so, yeah, probably the other thing that I can add, since you are interested in a combination, I would say if you have an API which is equal for whatever type of network you use, they'll probably facilitate for you to manage the capabilities. If it's this, it should be the same. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter which network you use. Even if you go maybe to satellite network, it shouldn't matter, right?
Absolutely, yes. API will be one of them, but the main constraint is not the techno and the telco and I will say the techno breaks.
Good to know.
It's more the how to convince local regulation as IFR that the pipe and the stream is fully secured. So yes, we will introduce when we can all the new techno bricks, even including slicing quality of service, clearly. But we need to demonstrate end-to-end from the aircraft to the ground that the link is secure. This is the main constraint we have, I would say, in the aviation domain.
Thank you for that. I'm just looking for the audience, if there's any brave one that has a question. Don't see any hands, so I will continue. Right, so then coming back to you, Mr. Mittal. So as a government, you have done quite a lot on the 5G, you have been successful. Are you doing other initiative, or how do you help other countries maybe to have the same success that you have?
So in fact, India was actually heading the G20 this year, we just gave up, passed the baton to, the next country for the G20. But the theme for the summit was, there's a phrase in Sanskrit called Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, which means the world is one, right? So one future, one earth. And the aim is to ensure that the development and progress is shared equally across everybody. In fact, what we are trying to do is to make sure that technology which we develop is available to countries where they may not be able to do it themselves. India actually is developed and is exporting to 4G technology to roughly about 12 countries, our ecosystem partners. At the same time, the investment in FDI has increased to about $24 billion. The investment in telecom has been about $28 billion. So there is a lot of money coming in for the domestic development and technological evolution, and at the same time, the country is also focusing through its programs to ensure that the technology is shared with the other partners and other sovereign nations. India is also, taking part in a lot of initiatives like the ISET, with the Indo-US initiative, with the QuadSet, with Indo-Japan initiative, Indo-UK initiative, to have role and play in the critical and emerging technologies, so that the fruits of these modern developments can be shared equally with all the nations.
That's good. We need to do probably more together, as we also said it before. Then maybe continue on this theme. So I start from Mikko, then we can. We heard there's a lot of initiative and to share, to work together. What do you see as a community, but not just the tech community overall, how we can work together, and which area do you think we should start really getting closer? I know it's a very broad.
Yeah, that's a great question and difficult one as well, especially to improvise for it. I think there was, first of all, the previous panel, I think it was again by Ross, was a great statement that, when we collaborate, the cake gets larger, not bigger. So I think the first thing that we need for collaboration is to put away the fear of competition and understand that the value creation happens in ecosystems anyway. I mean, we observe any technology application, business or service, and it's never ever provided by monolith, It's a ecosystem of companies. Many of those might be partially competitors as well. So I think that's kind of the key principle that should be behind enabling this kind of a new initiatives and the new world and the new application and new services, is to let away that fear that, okay, I'm going to work with them because they are my competitor, and then start building the kind of tools which enable and support the ecosystem, whether it's the open APIs, developer platforms, and all that kind of thing. So that's how I think I go about it. Of course, also going by the Jurrie's previous recommendation, going for those small wins and kind of initiatives, you have to get started as well, not stop or so forth. So I think very important is also experiment and try things out, and that way then get smarter and know how to get things done.
Thank you for that. So yes, so that's a difficult one. Change mentality. Try by doing it, not just talking. That's a nice one. We also maybe need to test it. What about your opinion, or what should we work together? What is the area?
Yeah, I'd say we really have to move full steam ahead, getting those 5G standalone cores out, and the slide you had up earlier, that needs to go up a lot faster. And that can only be achieved by collaborating, because the reality is the operators want multi-vendor, disaggregated, cloud-native networks, right? And we all need to collaborate and bake in the testing, that's Spirent's part, to enable that. And then once the 5G advanced features come out, such as the faster uplink, the RedCap, the advanced positioning, then the ecosystem is ready to monetize that. So I think that's really the key.
Patrick, do you have any idea?
Very simple, very difficult to push the operators to deploy 5G SA. Anyway, we are waiting features, clearly. One of the main is slicing to avoid multiple devices in the aircraft, so reducing the costs of the installation, the retrofit time, and as well the performance. So developing only one device with the certification process, compliant with multiple links, I would say. So it's a convergence of features in one solution instead of multiple. That's why now we will be ready, but we need to wait for the operators' deployment for these features.
So that, in your point of view, you would be ready to work together with the operator, okay?
Okay.
So that's a shout out, so work with them. And maybe one final question is for you. You already mentioned you have done, as I said, what can we do for work together? You had a lot of test or universities or groups that helps to support the actually trying out. Is that correct? How do you stimulate the industry to actually work together?
So of course, one is to be able to give a vision to the future, right? And I think, while we've been developing the 4G and then as we are running, develop the 5G, and as we are dreaming, think of 6G. So India has already, we announced the Bharat 6G Alliance in March of 2023. The Honorable Prime Minister announced it with the aim that, the industries will not only work for today, but also for tomorrow. We have also allocated funds for, developing test beds, which can be used by industry and academia and startups for the 1 terahertz, test beds in India, along with optical, test beds. So these are the kind of initiatives the government is taking in advance to. We're also participating in the standards discussion in the ITU proactively. The principles of ubiquity with great support from many countries, we were able to actually, get that included in the one of the principles. We're also setting up the ORAN test beds. CDOT is setting up ORAN test beds also. And these are the initiatives we think will be able to actually bring industry together and be able to actually develop to use the word coherent system which works together with all the stakeholders. Okay, thank you very much for that. Well, this one was the last question that we have for the panel. Please, if you can just give an applause to our panelists of today.